What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Doing a little Steelers Browns preview day before the game. Gonna be a really interesting matchup. AFC North, always highly contested. Both teams coming in at 6-3 with playoff aspirations. Been a wild week, honestly, in terms of just some of the news surrounding the Browns. Obviously, no Deshaun Watson. He is done for the season. Now, no Joe Burrow as well. So, AFC North landscape has been really flipped on its head over the past couple of days. Really want to break down this game. Just some stuff that's changed since the week 2 matchup. The Steelers came away, was able to win the first of 2 games in the regular season. Just before we get started, I'll kind of break down the offense and the defense for the Browns, how the Steelers match up, all that good stuff. Wanted to go through some injuries really quick, just in terms of the Steelers. No Minka Fitzpatrick, no Montravius Adams, no Keanu Neal this week. All those guys hopefully have a chance to be back next week. I think Minka probably will at least see his practice participation ramp up. Adams being out is a blow to their depth, but I thought Keanu Benton played really well last week as well. No Keanu Neal, Trenton Simpson is probably going to get the start at safety, so it's going to be him and DeMonte KZ. Definitely something to watch for in the back end as they face this Cleveland team. Really, for Cleveland, they're mostly healthy. They got a lot of guys on the injury report, but pretty much everybody was full participants towards the end of the week. So, kind of the key injuries to watch for. Marquise Goodwin's going to miss this one with a concussion, and then probably no Juan Thornhill because he missed all week with a calf injury. DeJuan Jones also missed some time with a knee, so that's definitely something to watch for because Jedrick Wills is already on IR, their left tackle. They have Hudson over there playing left tackle in his place. I think that's how that's going to roll. But if Jones does get nicked up in this game, they could be down to fourth, fifth string tackle, whatever. So definitely interesting. The big news is obviously Dorian Thompson-Robinson starting for Deshaun Watson. But I want to start with the Cleveland defense just because I think that matchup is more pertinent. I think that that's going to be the matchup that defines the game is how these two defenses play. So really any metric that you look at is Brown's defense is honestly phenomenal. Jim Schwartz, new defense coordinator, has done a great job. They've done some very unique stuff. They've got really good talent on that side of the ball, but he does a good job schematically. They are a man-heavy defense, a lot of single high, middle field close coverages, but they do a lot of things to confuse the quarterback. They'll do a lot of sim pressures. You'll see post snap rotations, a lot of really exotic blitz looks to confuse quarterbacks after this. It's definitely something that you're going to have to watch for. Kenny Pickett going to need to be really sharp mentally this week as much as anything else. And even with Schwartz, how good of a job he's done, a lot of that is because of, how much talent they've got on that side of the ball. We know about Myles Garrett. He needs no introduction, as Mike Tomlin would say. Really the big thing with Garrett, man, the Steelers have done a decent job containing him over the years. Just give him a lot of attention. You got to chip him. You got to put two guys over there. You got to have a guy over there with a condensed split to make him rush wide. The Browns will move him around, rush from the left and right side. But really the key is third and long situations or whenever you're planning on doing, the pure drop back passing game stuff, got to make sure you have a couple sets of eyes on him. But they've got other guys as well. Just from a pass rushing perspective, Darius Smith having a decent year pressure wise, even though the sacks haven't necessarily all been there consistently. Okoronkwo is somebody that I think is an interesting player. He's strictly a designated pass rusher for them. Really, the difference between last year's team and this year's team for the Browns is, they've shored up the middle of the field. Dalvin Tomlinson doing a much better job stopping the run. Really, any metric that you look at, the Browns are first in yards per drive, first in points per drive. And even like when you look a little bit deeper into like their pass defense stuff, they're the best team in success rate in man coverage, zone coverage, 4-man blitzes, and when they blitz. So like there's really not that's how great they've been. They've been much better at home. You even look at some of their performances. Granted, I know a lot of really good defenses often feast on bad quarterbacks, but they held San Francisco to a really low point total at home this year. They've had some hiccups defensively, some of that being due to turnovers, but that's mostly been when they've been on the road. Cleveland's at home this week, so it's going to be a really big test. Second level guys, JOK. We know about him from him coming out of the draft. Really athletic, instinctual linebacker. Anthony Walker, Taki. Those guys are pretty good. Run defenders, more first and foremost. Just at the cornerback position, bunch of different archetypes. They got Denzel Ward, one of the top players in the league at his position, especially this year, have playing some really fantastic ball. Martin Emerson, another guy that's going to play out on the boundary. We've seen him and George Pickens go back and forth for a long time, dating back to their days at in the SEC. Greg Newsome, guy that I'm a huge fan of, inside outside versatility, super smooth feet, really fluid athlete. Secondary, man, like just with the Browns, with how much man coverage they play, they're a top three man coverage usage rate team. A lot of single high. They trust their guys on the outside. Like it doesn't matter who you put out there in terms of like the Steelers receivers. We think that Deontay Johnson, George Pickens are really good players. Cleveland's not going to be afraid of those guys. It just they have that much trust. It doesn't matter who you throw out there. They're going to play man coverage. They're going to get up in your face, bump and run, all that stuff. Um, so it's going to be really interesting to see that dogfight out there. Johnson fully healthy now. Missed the first matchup. George Pickens had that really huge long touchdown. That was really the one explosive play that Pittsburgh was able to generate in the first matchup of the year. The Steelers will get back Pat Freiermuth, so that's a good thing. Seems like he's going to be able to go. Who knows how much he plays and how they utilize him, but it should at least give them a third option in the passing game, something that they've been missing over the course of the season. I think Freiermuth could potentially help them. The Steelers are seeing a lot of cloud coverages. We talked about that on the channel, on Steelers Now, all that stuff. Freiermuth could help them potentially underneath, alleviate some of the pressure off the receivers when teams want to play those soft zone looks. At safety, Grant Delpit's played really, really good ball for them. They play a lot of like 7-man boxes, so it's primarily single high. So it's not going to be like the light boxes that some of the Steelers looks have seen in recent weeks. But Delpit's a guy will blitz, play in the box, play slide. He can play some single high too. Thornhill's going to be out. I think it's going to be Rodney McLeod back there, veteran guy. He's probably going to be steady, I would imagine. Been around a long, long time. Just for the Steelers' perspective, man, did not have a good offensive showing in that first matchup. Worst able to come away with the win. Kenny had the early interception, but I mean, they took care of the ball at least in the second half of that game. But this is going to be a really tough test. This is the best defense. I said it at the very beginning of the year. I think this is the best defense that they'll play all year. With all due respect to Baltimore and San Francisco, I think that this Browns unit is as good as any in the league, and the numbers definitely bear it out over the first course of the season. So, very interesting matchup. Biggest thing, man, got to take care of the football. We talked about the Steelers' takeaways and what they've been able to do on defense. If the Steelers can take care of the ball, Kenny Pickett included, they're going to have a chance to win this game. The Browns just moving towards their offense and how the Steelers match up over there. It's not going to be this. This game is going to be extremely ugly. The Browns, I would be very surprised if they end up just torching the Steelers for 30, 35 points. If that happens, something really, really went wrong. Stefanski's a really good play caller. He's had short-term success with guys like Baker Mayfield, Jacoby Brissett. It wouldn't surprise me if it was a good game plan for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. DTR, I didn't do a ton of scouting on quarterbacks this past draft cycle beyond just the top guys, just because the Steelers were going to pick one, so I just didn't waste my time. But DTR, I am familiar with him. I watch a lot of college football, so I've seen him play a lot on the West Coast. Does a pretty good job in the quick game. Has an above average arm. Pretty accurate underneath. Throws a pretty ball. Can move a good amount. He ran like a 4.55, I think, at the combine. He's a guy who is not necessarily. I wouldn't classify him as a runner, but you can use him in run situations. He may have a designed run or two in the game plan this week for the Steelers. But really, it's about him just making plays with his legs when things break down. Like, he does have the athleticism and the total tools package to make some explosive plays happen if you lose track of him, like third long situations or whatever. If he escapes the pocket, that's something that's going to be interesting to watch. The problem with DTR and like what makes this game difficult to kind of preview is like we've only seen DTR once, and it was against the Ravens. He found out that morning that he was starting. He didn't play well. I went back and watched the broadcast copy of that tape this morning. Actually, didn't play well. Missed some receivers, turned the football over. But, he's a day 3 rookie quarterback that's coming in, and the game plan's not even prepped for him. That's what makes this different is, this is going to be a DTR game plan, not a Deshaun Watson game plan that he's coming in and just trying to execute. So it really just depends. I do think that the Steelers are going to be able to have chances to turn him over. Cleveland is going to try to run the football, though. This, as always, even with Deshaun Watson in the game, we talked about this on the Week 2 preview. The Steelers are going to have to stop the run. The Browns, they'll mix in a lot of gap concepts. Of course, they'll run zone as well, but really it starts with what they can do up front. They pretty much have like the gold standard, I feel like, for guard play in the NFL and have for the past, I don't know, like half decade or so. But Wyatt Teller, Joe Batonio, both those guys are good at pass protection, but they really make their key in the run game. Both athletic guys, they can pull, they can get to the second level. You'll see them run pin and pull with them. They will, run a lot of power stuff, GT counter, just a lot of different opportunities available for the play caller when you have guards that can do pretty much everything from an athleticism standpoint. No Nick Chubb, unfortunately, he suffered that injury in the first matchup. Jerome Ford's done a good job for them, creating some explosive plays. They got Pierre Strong, New England. I think the big thing with Ford, he busted off that like long touchdown run. I don't know if he actually scored in the first matchup. They lost contain on him. He's a guy they got to be able to keep a lid on some of those explosive plays. He's done an adequate job, I feel like, replacing Nick Chubb, but he's not Nick Chubb. Just in terms of the Browns pass catchers, Amari Cooper, one of the best route runners in the league, going to be a very interesting matchup. I'm excited to see if they do have Joey Porter Jr. travel with him. One of the interesting things, I was kind of looking at just some numbers from that first matchup, and really interesting to see the Steelers only played man coverage on 14% of their snaps. I'm curious if that was a Deshaun Watson thing or if that was a Browns offense thing. Keep in mind, Joey Porter Jr. only played a couple snaps in that first one, so that's what's going to make that kind of interesting. There are other guys, Elijah Moore. They traded away Donovan Peoples-Jones, kind of running with David Bell, Cedric Tillman as the other guys. Really, the guy that I think I'm most worried about this week is probably David Njoku. He had that big primetime game against them last year with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. I'm a little bit worried just because the Steelers playing a lot of backups right now. Inside linebacker group, it seems like Mykal Walker is going to actually start this week with Landon Roberts in the middle. So it's going to be interesting to see Stefanski if he tries to get Njoku matched up with either Landon Roberts, Mykal Walker, Trent Simpson or Thompson, I should say. So it's going to be really interesting to see just how much they lead into Njoku. Browns fans are constantly asking why they don't throw him the ball much, as much. He's a really good athlete, strong guy after the catch. He scored 2 touchdowns on the Steelers last year. So I think that, putting him in the slot, flexing him out and getting him involved in the pass game is probably something that they're going to lean into and something that the Steelers are definitely going to have to be really, really ready for. Just in terms of matchups that the Steelers really took advantage of last matchup was Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt went off. I mean, that you go back and look at the recap video that I did from that matchup. Those two pretty much won them the game. Alex Highsmith was phenomenal. TJ Watt had like 7 pressures, a sack. Highsmith had, I think, a sack. Intercept was key on the interception. 7 pressures on Jedrick Wills. Now he gets a backup. Interesting enough, Hudson came in last year in the finale, and Highsmith immediately beat him for a sack. I think it was the inside spin move. So keep an eye on that. He's had success against this guy in the past. The Steelers edge rushers, they're going to need to play big. I think Stefanski's going to want to get the ball out quick, get DTR in rhythm with some underneath intermediate throws where he kind of has more success. He's not a very accurate downfield thrower, so that's probably pretty good news for the Steelers. But we also talked about how Jordan Love last week had not had any success throwing the ball down the field coming into the game, and you guys that have watched the channel, y'all saw the video that I did a couple days ago about all the explosive pass plays that they allowed downfield. Communication, really key. I mean, there's going to be a lot of backups playing this week. Elijah Riley's going to get time. Like we mentioned, Mykal Walker. Probably going to see some Mark Robinson, different guys in the secondary. Some going to be a matter of keeping a lid on some of these explosive plays. The turnover battle, as always in these AFC North games, really, really matters. I think if the Steelers can win the turnover battle like 2-1, 2-0, something like that, they're going to have a really good chance to win this game. As long as they take care of the ball on offense, turn DTR over a couple times, that's going to be absolutely key. But it should be a really interesting game nonetheless. Huge game for the standings. I mean, if the Steelers win this one, they move to 7-3. I think their playoff odds jump from like 75% or something like that. And if they lose, I think it jumps or drops, excuse me, below 50%. So this one matters a ton. I think the Browns' schedule down the stretch is really favorable, even with DTR in the lineup. So this is a huge, huge game, just in terms of determining seeding, determining if either one of these teams are going to be able to make the playoffs. I anticipate they're both really going to be in the running until the very, very end of it, unless DTR just completely tanks their chances offensively. But they haven't really been that good on offense all season long. So interested to see what happens in this one. As always, I appreciate you guys checking out the video. Just make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, turn on notifications. All that good stuff is greatly appreciated on my end. As a side note, because I know a lot of the OGs and the dedicated subs to the channel are going to make it to this point of the video. If you guys are interested in seeing like some draft content on the channel, let me know. I've kind of started tooling around, like fooling around with some draft stuff already. Not just beyond just like watching the college football games on Saturdays, but started watching some film on some guys in recent weeks, some guys that I've already kind of tabbed as guys that I really like. If you guys are interested in that stuff, drop me a comment. Let me know. I might be willing to put up like maybe a draft video or something like that once a week or whatever until we get to that point in the off season. As always, I will be back after the game. I'll have some type of reaction or recap video. Hopefully, the Steelers are able to pull this one out. I think it's going to be an ugly one. I think on the Steelers pregame now show, I predicted 17 Steelers. I think that is going to be that type of game. Over under set at 33. It's going to be an ugly one, folks. I would be very surprised if this was a blowout. Either way, it's going to be tight. So I appreciate you guys checking in with me.